We'll take a brief look at the common types of terrorist operations: kidnapping, hostage taking; blackmail, used to gain access or information; smuggling, again to gain access, information, also as a means of funding the terrorist operation; murder, taking out specific people, this would be assassinations; maiming, used for traitors to the terrorist organization or perceived traitors; assaults and raids, which are military operations; ambushes, IEDs, and suicide bombers. Again, these are paramilitary operations used to cause fear and panic among the population. Now let's look at your individual threat analysis. All civilians are at risk of terrorism. Terrorists place the most force against the weakest target, which is civilians. This is why civilians are called a soft target. Terrorism is a form of psychological warfare. It is also a war crime under the Geneva Convention. Terrorists are guerrilla soldiers in that they have training that most civilians do not have, and that they are not a professional military force. Not all guerrillas are terrorists, however. Terrorism is counterproductive to the popular support rule of guerrilla warfare, which means that guerrillas actually do not go out and commit crimes, they gain support from the population around them. So let's compare the training involved between terrorists and the rest of us. The professional soldier, which in fact does include Marines, has training in hand-to-hand combat, first aid, land navigation, marksmanship, camouflage, as well as battle drills and basic tactics which will be implemented in a combat scenario. This also includes D&C and other forms of training which isn't mentioned here, but we're focusing primarily on combat skills. By comparison, the guerrilla soldier has a weaker form of marksmanship training, but they're still trained in marksmanship, as well as camouflage, which also includes urban camouflage, also known as disguise, the same basic battle drills and tactics as a professional soldier, and a mental indoctrination process, which makes them true believers and willing to die for their perceived cause that many civilians and professional soldiers do not have. Now, looking at law enforcement, we see that the law enforcement officer also has marksmanship training in the handgun, the shotgun, as well as their whatever rifle system they use. I believe it's the AR-15 platform. Arrest techniques, legal codes, evasive driving, high-speed pursuit driving, interrogation. They also get specialized training in battle drills and tactics for SWAT-type units, which is generally drawn from a mounted military operations and urban terrain platform common to the military. Again, we look at the guerrilla soldier, who has the minimalist combat training for their needs, which includes marksmanship, camouflage, which also includes disguise in an urban platform, battle drills, tactics, and mental indoctrination, which again makes them a true believer in their cause. That willingness to lay down their life is what truly makes the guerrilla or the terrorist a threat to conventional forces in military or law enforcement. Now then, let's compare the average civilian. Tactics for the average civilian are media-based tactics. They're based on TV and video games. Hand-to-hand combat training for your average civilian is based on sport martial arts, boxing, wrestling, or none at all. The average marksmanship training for the civilian comes from target shooting. The average combat survival training will be based on things such as Boy Scouts, hunting, fishing, or camping, none of which is relevant to battlefield combat or any sort of urban combat type of scenario. In fact, compared to the guerrilla, the average civilian is lacking heavily in the required skills to be able to confront the guerrilla or terrorist soldier. The guerrilla soldier, by comparison, has combat-based marksmanship training. They are trained in camouflage and concealment, including urban camouflage, which is what many people call disguises. They are trained in battle drills and individual tactics to make the best of their situation while armed. And they have that, again, I have to mention this, that mental indoctrination process that makes them willing to lay down their life and submit their life to die for their cause. This also means that they're willing to kill innocent people, and this mental indoctrination is what helps them to rationalize the murder of innocent civilians, simply for the greater good of the cause, which often they themselves don't really understand. This lack of understanding what the true cause truly is isn't so much what makes them a victim, but what makes them a victim of the indoctrination process of a cult mentality or group identity, group think, if it's easier for you to understand in those terms. How do you compare as a target of terrorism? Will someone pay for your safe return? Do you have access to large amounts of money, equipment, chemicals, or secure information? Does your job place you in conflict with those seeking to do harm, such as police or military or security? Do you gather in public places such as bars, malls, large stores, or concerts frequently with others around you? Do you frequently visit government buildings? Do you observe your surroundings, or did you observe your surroundings before this video? Will someone pay for your safe return? If they have the money to do so, perhaps. Maybe that payment is information or access. If your family or your spouse or anyone who cares about you is at a high risk of terrorism, that also by proxy makes you a possibility of getting to them and makes you at risk for terrorism. Do you have access to large amounts of money, such as being a bank teller, equipment, chemicals, or any sort of secure information? There's someone in your family who might pay for your safe return. Again, even if you don't, someone close to you, a spouse, a family member. That makes you puts you at possible risk of being a target of terrorism in one form or another. Does your job place you between those seeking to do harm and their targets, whether you're a police officer, security officer, military? And does this job still grant you access to money, equipment, the use of chemicals, or possible secure information? If so, again, this places you and your family at risk of being the targets of terrorism, usually as a stage to carrying out a greater terrorist act. Even without access or a job which grants us special accesses, or family who grants us special accesses, or has a position of authority within our society, we're still at risk of terrorism, such as active shooter scenarios, bomb threats, and suicide bombers, simply by gathering in public places with a large number of other people frequently. This is a soft target in which terrorists can maximize the body count against unarmed and possibly, usually, unaware civilian targets. Do you frequent government buildings? Now, a government building doesn't matter. It is a building which is ran and funded by the government. Do these government buildings have a large amount of security? Many do not. For example, with the Oklahoma Trade City bombing, the building which was attacked was a building with low security from a car bomb outside the building, which didn't have a lot of external observation or limited means of getting a vehicle in that close. In so doing, Timothy McVeigh was able to kill the children of federal employees as payback for the children who were killed at Waco and Ruby Ridge. This type of rationalization, and again the fact that being in a government building, working in a government building, whether you're the janitor or not, or frequently going to a government building for whatever reason, such as going to a town hall frequently to look for disposed properties which were taken from the owners due to back taxes, can make you a possible target of a terrorist attack simply by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Did you make it a conscious point to be observant of your environment before seeing this video? Did you even know what to look for? Awareness can be as much of a deterrent as force, because awareness means that a person can avoid the threat and alert the authorities to the possibility of danger. The simple fact of the matter is, you aren't Rambo, and being aware is your best defense as a civilian.